are trying to get them to understand what you are going through. And the other thing that I'll mention now, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, is that in terms of this two persons that we are, the three people that we are, we're this cognitive person. We're the person that thinks. And our children are that way. There's a part of them that think. And so what we try to do when we're trying to raise them is we try to attack and try to influence the thinking them. Then there's the emotional them. That's the part that goes on inside that they may not share with you. That's the part that really drives their behavior, that emotional. We do a lot of talking with them. You should do this, you should do that. This makes sense, that makes sense. They're in school and they're learning their math and learning all of these things. That's their cognitive self. But they're driven primarily by their emotional selves. And in fact, their emotional selves even modulates with their logical self. So as mothers and fathers that are trying to get our children to grow up to be what we perceive as ideal citizens, what we want to do is to think about and to frame our relationship with them on the basis of where they are emotionally. And so as mothers and fathers, my suggestion and my research shows is that we really need to lessen the cognitive things. You want to spend time telling them and outlining the things that they should do, but understand where you really get to them is when you get to where they are emotionally. And for boys that have, and I'm sure the other gentleman will talk about, John will talk about this, for boys that do not have their fathers in their lives on a day-to-day basis, there's a different kind of emotional thing going on with them than boys that do have their fathers in their lives on a day-to-day basis. Even if they have mentors and other things, there's a different kind of emotional thing, and very often, the emotional things that are going on with them, they will not talk about.
My answer to that is, of course, yes, but I think that one of the things that we as women struggle with is the strength, the natural strength that we have. And so we have a tendency, because we're so strong, not to bring on the village. Because there's certain things that we feel that we can just do, because we can do them, and we know how to do them, and we're going to do them. And I think culturally, oftentimes, we're a little bit more embarrassed if there are certain things that we can't do, so then we try to supplement those things ourselves. Again, that still leaves us trying to help us. And it doesn't necessarily work, so I think that it's really, really important that you figure out the things. I always say, professionally, the things that I know, period. And nobody can tell me anything different. But the things that I don't know, I am very open to go out and figure out who can help me. And I think that, and we were just talking about this, I always use this example. If anything, when you're lost and you're asking for direction, oftentimes we'll talk to our sisters or we'll talk to our parents. But the very first thing that you ask somebody when you're looking for something is, do you live around here? That's the first thing. So we have to be able to stop and identify and say, I don't know how to do this right here, but let me find somebody who actually knows how to do what it is that I'm trying to do, and let me make sure so that I can then align my son with people who can help him. And then I can have a conversation, piggyback on those things that those people are teaching him. It's important, we were talking about with mentors, and the things that you need to ask the mentors in order to help you. I think you have to create those partnerships. So you send your son to a program or to someone who can help them, and then find out those things that person was talking to them about. Then when your son gets home, then you can talk to your son about those things, because when children understand that you understand them or that you're trying to understand them, they're more open to have conversations with you. So your partnership on teaching your son A may not be to give him the information, but it is to find out the information that he learned and talk to him about it and let him express those things and what his feelings were about whatever it is that he learned.
Just a short, direct answer to the response is yes. I think mothers can successfully raise their sons and daughters in a single-parent household. But I also wanted to begin my comments by normalizing this situation. There's several parents in the room right now, and I'm assuming you all are either representatives or single parents yourselves. And I wanted to normalize this by throwing out this statistic. And basically it says that children who are born in the 80s or 90s will at least 50% of them will likely be raised in a single parent household. And for 25% of families, at least 25% of those families will will incur either a single parent household that's led by a mother or a father. And so this is a very common issue that we're not just dealing with ourselves. And I believe, like the panelists have already stated, we can try and do things on our own, we can try and be strong on our own, but I believe the successful factors and variables are always increased when we allow others to come and help us. And that's the theme for today, raising, it takes a village to raise a child. And so one of the main points that I want to emphasize, and I'll probably say this one or two more times in my comments, is the need for social support. One of the factors that increase the successful likelihood of parents being able to raise their sons and daughters by themselves is allowing others to come alongside them and to assist with caring for their kids. So it could be social support from school, from family, it could be grandmothers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, it could be neighbors, but just the idea of bringing other people alongside you to help build this community of a village.
And I agree with everyone. As far as the emotional health of boys process things different, and they're not women and they're not girls, and so the conversations that we have with our sons are a little different. And I think as women and as mothers in particular, I think we have to adjust our hearing so that we can really hear what they're saying and not press them sometimes on, well, what happened, what's the matter, well, talk to me, and then become offended if they won't share with us. Just to give them a moment to process and to, just like Dr. Hickey said, to just be aware that there is a different emotional language that mothers really need to learn, have to master that emotional language so that they will come to us, at 3 and at 13 and at 25.
And I just want to add to that, I think it was a very important question that Dr. Hickey posed. Single mothers raising black sons and black sons being raised by single mothers. And I think sometimes, based upon the statistics that John gave, we're more concerned about it than they are concerned about it. And I think oftentimes we try to overcompensate because we're like, well, my baby only has me. So that factors into the mother issue versus the son issue. And I think we are concerned about what will people think? How are they handling the knowledge that they're the only ones? My one son said, I was like, well, how did you feel not having a dad? He's like, oh, well, the other person's parents are divorced. Their dad doesn't live with them either. And it was an insight to me that I was overlaying my concern about how will it look for him to not have a father at the program or not have a father here. So I think we want to tease that out, that difference between our concerns and issues and what's really going on in the lives of our boys. And so the next kind of question is deeper into this emotional piece. What are some things we can look for in terms of behaviors, in terms of talk, around they're not necessarily feeling comfortable with the situation and how we need to respond? And for me, it sometimes comes out as this, like, you're going to sit here and talk to me now. They're like, I need a minute, Mom. And I'm like, no. So how do we deal with the emotional piece of being a black son being raised by a single mother? And not everyone needs to respond, but whoever wants to weigh in.
Well, just before I go to that, I wanted to just piggyback on, because the topic here is about the village. And I wanted to just make sure that I articulate that there is a village. Now, there is either a village that you control or the village that finds them. And so, again, with boys and girls and adults, we do what we see. And so as parents that are concerned about, again, us giving our children, putting them in environments that create the kind of person that we want them to be, pay particular attention to the environment that they're exposed to. And this includes relatives. I have to admit, this morning, I woke up this morning thinking, okay, I'm going to go to this panel on Dr. Hickey. And I'm trying to decide, am I going to be Dr. Hickey or am I going to keep it real? I've decided to just keep it real, so I'm no longer Dr. Hickey, all right? I am Chris that grew up in the Nicholson Garden, okay, so.
Thank you, Sharani from Compton is happy to see you.
It's plain old Chris.
Okay.
So, with respect, now moving on to this emotional thing, I wanted, it kind of reminded me of some of my research, and it was interesting that I was interviewing boys that had fathers and other boys that did not have fathers. It was very interesting that, and I wanted to know about their son-father relationship experiences. The sons that had fathers in their day-to-day life, this was no big deal to them. They didn't go around saying, you know, I'm emotionally well stable because my father's in my life. And interesting enough, even the boys that did not have fathers, they didn't necessarily, it came out in their stories that they had this emotional attachment, but the boys with fathers, it didn't come out as much. So one of the things, as Sharon, you said, is we make that a big deal. So one of the things we want to do, those emotions are there, but we have to allow them space to express it in the way that they want to express it. And we'll see that even in the friends that they select, as they become adolescents, the girls that they tend to like. We'll see kind of the emotional stability or the emotional place that they are through the things that they do. But when you press them to explain, particularly males that do not have their fathers in their life, they shut down. They don't want to deal with that. They have friends that do have fathers in their life, and their friends that do have fathers in their life have a relationship with them that has nothing to do with their father. Even if their father, if the boy with the father's coach is the coach of the basketball team that both of them are, the boy with the father does not say, that's my dad, and he's doing this for me. They're just boys. And as I said, the boys with their fathers in their life, it's just their fathers in their life. And I've recognized that recently with my own son. He just does not parade or brag about my father was in my life all my life. You know, it's no big deal to them, it's natural. And so as men and women that are raising sons and daughters, is this an issue? It is important. The environment that you create and that you put them in, like the mentoring program here, is significant. But they are not going to just open up with the emotional relationship that they have with and without their father. It's incumbent on you to pay a lot of attention to the things that they do and the things that they do outside of the home, which means that you were kind of doing some of those things with them outside of the home. If you create relationships, and I know someone's going to say it, you are not their friend, but you can be an associate. You can know their friend's parents or parent. You can, as we said about the community, you can form collaborations with the parents, those that have fathers and those that don't have fathers. And that's how you get in touch with where your child is emotionally.
And I just want to say something from the, from the perspective of a woman. You know, we have a tendency, first there's the whole, where are we learning how to raise boys? Is it from our families and the things that we've seen in our own generations? And then how do we pursue or find information that is not just from what we've actually learned? I think that it's important to reach outside of our own personal boxes of what we've seen. But I think that we have to look at raising our sons the same way we would expect a man who was a single father to figure out what happens to a girl when she gets her period. What happens when her hormones start changing. We